For this next project, I'm going to set up a little scene here that we're going to use for our particles. And from your content that you downloaded, you can load up M901. All right, and what this is, it's nothing more than just a very simple sync that came from the assets that came with your Moto installation. Okay, so there's a simple sync right there. That sync then has a counter and a backsplash with just a kind of a nice granite put on there. From there, an HDR image is used. This probe image is actually used to light the entire scene using global illumination, which is turned on from the render tab, just like that. Okay, and actually that looks nice too. But the secondary light that you're seeing here is from a window light that is set to a spotlight right there. And that spotlight, let me put the global illumination back on. That spotlight has a window gobo set to a group mask and just creates kind of a little daylight look. And the light material is this kind of soft blue. Just so there's a little added light coming into the scene. So from there, what I want to do is save this as Sync-02. And that's what we'll work with. So Sync-01 is the one you can start with. And let's zoom in on this faucet right here. Let's take a look. It's just a little too new and shiny, isn't it? So let's go ahead and play with that one. So I'm going to go to the material selection here. Click on that, and you'll see that it jumps right to the material for the faucet under the steel. We're going to turn that group off, and then for the faucet itself, I'm going to add a new material. And this new material can just be a kind of a dull gray like that. Then from the add layer again, we're going to go down to processing and choose occlusion. And this is a great shader that can do some really amazing things, but it can be a little tricky to set up. So what we want to do is create kind of that steel look a little bit, but we want to just kind of grunge this up. So for these two colors, I'm going to make them just kind of obnoxious so that you can see what we're doing here. And then we can tweak it down. And this is a really good method that I've used just to kind of learn what something's doing. Set it to an extreme so that you can actually see the change and then modify it down into where you want it to be. Alright, so just by default you can see that this occlusion shader, here's the green, and look at that little red right in there. Looks like, kind of looks worn. Right? So let's work our way down here, see what this is. This type is set to uniform. Right? Now you can do up, down shape. It all depends on really what the shape of your model is. Alright, and what this occlusion shader does, it creates kind of like a, here you can do like a drip rust kind of color, which is kind of cool. I want to actually kind of burn these edges a bit so it looks a little worn. So that's where we're going to get down to convex and concave. And we get that look, which is really great. Now you can go ahead and change these occlusion rays a little more, a little less. And so I just dragged it down about half of where it was. And so now we get this kind of worn edge look. I'll let this process a bit. So that's what the occlusion shader is doing, but we have it set just to diffuse color. So if you've gone through some of the other shading tutorials and you realize how powerful Moto can be, and you start thinking about it, you know, there could be some really cool things in here. So let's turn off the material that we just added real quick. Let's turn the steel on. And then from there, the occlusion can stay where it is, but let's move it down into steel. Let's keep organized here. And we'll take this material away. Okay, so a lot of times I will just add a material just to set something up. So now with this occlusion on top of our steel group, set to diffuse color, you can do all kinds of things. So if you right click on this, go to basic channels, you can do diffuse amount. So this occlusion shader now will start pulling away in those areas, pull some of the light away. So if you look, it looks a little worn there, a little worn there. You can also do it as a bump map, surface shading bump. And we might need to vary that just a little bit. Or what's really cool is if you actually layer all these up. So in this case, we're going to go with just diffuse amount. Actually, I take that back. We want diffuse color. You can do diffuse roughness as well. But with diffuse color, these color values can start coming into play. So I like the silver as a base, but let's just go a little bit more and just kind of add some kind of brown staining, just kind of dark. So that's going to be the overall color. And then the green, we can even make a darker version of that. So I'm going to get to like a brown. Even choose one of these preset colors here. And then we can get down to the base material itself and make that a little less shiny. Like that. Another thing you can do with this, if you right click, you can actually make it a group mask. And that'll give you a really good indication of how this is applying. And you can see right there. It's nice masking those areas out. And again, just playing with these different rays right here. Experimenting with the occlusion distance values. You can actually see how I can tighten those up on the edges. And basically it just creates a nice worn edges look. Alright. I think that might be a little too small. But I just wanted to give you guys kind of a head start with this because it'll give you just a little more realism. And you can add anything. The only thing with this, with the occlusion shader, is that it does add to the rendering time. It's much better in 902 than it was in 801. But just something to be aware of. So I'm going to change this back to diffuse amount. I think that's actually working just fine for us, just to create kind of a little worn edge there. And again, you can play with the rays, the distance, and just see what you like. And it all changes based on the size of the object, the amount of little crevices you have. So if you have bricks and things, this will actually look a lot better than it will just on a little simple faucet like this. But go ahead and play with that. Take a look, add it on, see how you like it, and play with some of these values just to get a crazy look. And again, one thing to do is just really play with these color values just to see where things are being applied. So right here I've changed this so much now I'm not even seeing it. And let's change this back to diffuse color. There we go. And you can see now this really gives you a good indication of where everything is. So we'll do that. Bring that distance down so we don't lose our top faucet. And let's increase our variance. Actually decrease. I think looks better. There. Now you can see that the green is there. It's there. It's on the little crevices for convex and concave. You can also try, just using a reflection area. This is the type or the downslope. I've always had best luck with convex and concave, but the downslope might work for this because it'll create sort of that kind of dripped look. So that will be this guy here. That would be our first color. And then for this one, we could just kind of come back up like that. Anyway, you can sit and tweak all day. Let's go on into the next tutorial. I'm going to pull this back out. This is Sync 02. And let's go ahead and put some particles and stream some liquid out of that faucet.